Senator Merkley, thank you for helping us connect to Congress.
Pleasure to be with you.
We've seen turmoil in the stock market due in large part to concerns about the banking system. In this country, we witnessed the recent failures of two big banks. The Silicon Valley Bank collapse is the biggest failure of a U.S. bank in 15 years. President Biden says Americans can rest assured that our banking system is safe. Do you agree with that statement? Why or why not?
Well, what we do know is that the legislation that Trump pushed through in 2018 really reduced the amount of stress tests, the liquidity standards, the capital standards, the oversight, and that's always a mistake. Every banking crisis seems to follow deregulation. So, but there's a special characteristics about this event. The first is that particular bank had massive purchases of bonds because they couldn't lend out the money as fast as it came in. And those bonds decreased dramatically in value as a result of the interest rates going up. There's very few banks that have that type of financial structure. It's different in that sense than, say, the home mortgage bonds that drove the 2007, 2008 crisis. But the other thing we know is that the run happened incredibly fast because of the internet. Within 6 hours, billions and billions of dollars were withdrawn. And that type of internet-driven run on a bank is something that we're going to have to deal with because virtually no bank can withstand like almost every depositor trying to withdraw their funds all at once. So that is a piece that we really have to address, as well as strengthen, restore the liquidity and capital and stress test standards that we had before the 2018 bill.
Will there be an appetite in Congress to pass new rules and regulations?
Well, I would hope that we would respond to the particular circumstances of strengthening the liquidity, capital reviews, the stress tests, because I don't think anyone believes that this country is going to benefit from a future banking crisis that could be a lot larger than the one we have now. The one we have now, we don't really know for sure that it's completely contained, but there's reasons to think we're in pretty good shape. So we'll see. But if you don't have those capital and liquidity standards and stress tests broadly, you're setting the stage for another banking crisis in the future that will hurt ordinary Americans.
There is a hearing taking place in a federal court in Texas where a Trump-appointed judge is being asked to ban an abortion pill on a national level. How could this impact Oregonians?
Well, the idea that basic access to abortion medication, mifepristone, could be banned in Oregon by a judge in Texas is just outrageous. This is a totally FDA-approved drug. It's been available forever, and it would be completely miscarriage of justice and deeply damaging to health care if such a judgment was not immediately stayed by another court. So we'll have to see how the courts come out, but should this happen, should there be a national blockade on this drug, we need to immediately, and I mean overnight, we need to get the Senate on the floor and vote on protecting Americans' access to reproductive health care.
On that note, if the pill is banned, what will you do next?
Well, I will push for immediate congressional action. I'll also, if there's any way we have the power to accelerate the review by another court, or the ability for there to be a stay on the judgment while it's reviewed by another court, we'll push for that as well. All we can do is with the courts is encourage, because they're an independent part of our government. But what we do have the ability to do is legislate, and we need to legislate, and the American people need to see where we stand.
On Tuesday, a Russian fighter jet collided with an unmanned U.S. military drone over international waters, forcing the U.S. to bring the drone down off the coast of Ukraine into the Black Sea. What concerns you most about this incident?
Well, it's the first occasion where U.S. and Russian arms have kind of directly collided. We have been very careful to say that our arms are not being used on any target within Russia, that our service men and women are not serving inside Ukraine. We certainly do not want the conflict in Ukraine to grow into a regional or world war. So that's the concern. I think this is a fairly modest incident, so the anxiety is not too high, but we've known all along that our backing of the freedom-loving people of Ukraine against the dictatorship of Putin raises the possibility of direct conflict between the United States and Russia, and we're trying to be very careful about that.
Katu News aired a tragic story this week about a toddler who overdosed on fentanyl. She had to be revived by Narcan. Beaverton police are still investigating. We hear about the fentanyl epidemic in stories like this, but this makes it really hit home and highlights the prevalence and danger of fentanyl. What needs to be done on a federal level to curtail the fentanyl crisis in this country?
Well, fentanyl is so much more powerful than other forms of cocaine and so forth, and a small contamination results in deaths, overdose deaths. It's a major driver of deaths among our young. Because it is so powerful and such a small amount can do so much damage, it's very hard to intercept it, but we need to do everything we can. We really did shut down the movement of fentanyl from China into the U.S. With the cooperation of the Chinese government. Now we see a ton of it coming in from Mexico. We need to keep working with Mexico to try to stop that. We're also seeing the precursors that are available. And certainly public education campaign, programs to help people end drug addiction so that they're not running this risk, and in general can massively improve their lives. These are all pieces of the puzzle we need to do all we can on.
You tweeted on Wednesday that the EPA just took a major step to limit exposure to toxic, cancer-causing forever chemicals to protect drinking water and health. What happens next in the effort to keep these chemicals out of drinking water?
So there's a 60-day review period for public comment. We hope the final regulation will be done by the end of this year. Certainly, the best thing is to keep them out in the first place. Back when I was in the state legislature, we had a conversation over the fact that these chemicals are put into our carpets, into our upholstery, into kind of everything, and even our babies crawling around on rugs are being exposed to these cancer-causing chemicals. And so we need to get those chemicals out of all those things we come into contact with in daily life, and help communities that do have contaminated water to be able to provide water that's safe in their system.
You're introducing the Monarch Act in an effort to prevent the extinction of the monarch butterfly. What will this act do, and what kind of support do you have for it?
A few years ago, the monarchs had overwintered, the western monarch. We're down to just a couple thousand butterflies, and I think every school child dreams of being able to see a monarch. We've had 2 good years since, so we're back from the brink of extinction, but still a really bad storm affecting those overwintering sites at the wrong moment can be devastating. And that may have just happened. We're waiting to see what these most recent storms in California have done. But it's a broader story about the plight of our pollinators that are so important to our ecosystems and to our crops that have been deeply affected by modern agricultural practices. And there's a lot we can do. And so this is about investing in those practices that the experts say will do a lot to help. One of those, for example, is simply having insecticide or pesticide free milkweed that people can plant in their own gardens, and other pesticide free plants that pollinators like, nectar producing plants, to help these populations rebound.
Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. A lot of good questions. Take care.